Now, you did mention having a supportive partner is important, and I completely agree with that. I remember one of my mentors in residency told me the most important decision you make in your life is the partner that you choose. It was Dr. Jane Grant Kells. But do you ever feel like, as a mom, sometimes that mental load falls on you? Because that's something that you can't really quantify in terms of tasks, but it's just that number of tabs, the checklist that's running in your brain. And I don't even know if our partners can help us with that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I am sort of, you alluded to it earlier, I am the calendar controller of my household. And so basically, all school events, all appointments, all extracurricular things, I'm in full control of in terms of the calendar and knowing when something's going to happen, where to take the child next, what's coming up for the weekend. And I do think it's been helpful from a perspective of like my husband's in tech. And so, at least from a flexibility perspective, if there needs to be somebody at school and I'm in clinic, he's definitely able to step in there, and he's involved in activities, et cetera. But as in kind of an example of that default sort of worry, I feel like no matter how many times I've said, like, hey, am in clinic all the time, so the school really can't call me because I'm never going to be able to pick up the phone. I'm always the school's default first call. And I think it's just because moms are the default first call typically. And so it's
Yeah.
really stressful when I get back to my desk and there's a missed call from school and I get palpitations and I have no idea what's happening. So I feel like in some ways too, just societally, there's also this expectation that it kind of just defaults to, mom first. And I obviously, if I can answer the phone, I want to know first. It's just that if I'm in the room with a patient, I'm not going to be able to pick up. So I do think that mental load a lot of times can fall on moms just in terms of overall planning and calendaring and just household management. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that point that you brought about how people are socialized. Because if you think about it, when we're younger, girls are often taught to anticipate needs, and boys are often taught to execute a task. And anticipation is that invisible work. And to your point, like when the school calls, they assume mom is the one who's going to be available because historically, moms were not the ones that were busy. They were the ones who were available. And how can we start to change that narrative so that there isn't this guilt? Because if you don't get the phone call that you miss, you're not going to be guilty. You'll hear about it later that night when you go home. But that adds to that extra invisible burden, mental load, and your husband can't help you with something he didn't even have any way of circumventing.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm like, and he's like, I'm not sure. He's like, I didn't get the call first. And I was like, I really need to know what's happening. I'm like really stressed out now. And I think I don't even think there's no malice behind it, right? I think it's just habit. And you're right. It's sometimes intentionally, I think we need to have a way to sort of address things like this to make sure that it's smooth and it makes sense for the changing family dynamics that we have.
Exactly. It's just like us in clinic. You always have that first agent that you pick when you have someone coming in with X disease, and it's getting out of that habit, trying new agents. It's the same exact concept. We're going to bring it back to medicine.
You're so right. That comfort, right? Familiarity. But is it the best option now?
Exactly. So you're 2026. We got to raise the bar in terms of what our expectations are. And also, one thing I misspoke when I said, I was like, your husband helping you. And I think that verbiage that I even mistakenly used myself is the problem. He's not helping you. There should be that shared ownership on any of these
Oh,
tasks. And the fact that
didn't
I
even
even said
notice.
it's funny because that's what we think. Like, can you help me with this? Can you do me a favor? But I'm like, no, that's part of the problem because even us as women, we feel like it's our job and we need to get help as opposed to, no, this is a joint effort and we need to both be contributing. And I think I myself
Hmm.
am guilty of it. Sometimes I feel like the words I use are just making it difficult for myself.
Yeah, you're so right. I didn't even notice. I was like, he would help me if he could.
Yeah. Like I said it and I'm like, wait a second, I probably should not have said that. Now, obviously, both of us were not moms to begin with. Do you think after becoming a mom, has that made you more softer? Has it strengthened you? Has it made you a more complicated person?
Yeah, I mean, I think motherhood is definitely like a strengthening type of experience. I think about just when we're on call and it's like, that call will end at some point, right? Being a parent, it feels like you're just on call 24/7 with like really high stakes. Like you don't want your
Really
child to hurt
needy patient.
themselves. Yes, very needy, very prone to like trauma and accidents. Um, possibly like no decision making capacity.
Yes.
So it's very concerning. But yeah, I feel like, I think about the amount of time that I spend thinking about the kids and, wanting to make sure that they grow up to be, good citizens who can contribute back to society and hopefully find something that they just love to do, and are passionate about. And it's a really big job. And I think it's something that takes a lot of intention. And, I think it's one of those things where I feel like at work, we've kind of been trained for it, right? We went to
Yes.
school, we knew how to study for tests, and we know how to like make our way through. I feel like for parenthood, there wasn't so much training. It was like, here's the baby. Like,
And figure it out.
go
Bye.
do what you want. Yeah. So I think it's been strengthening just from like this perspective of I wouldn't have it any other way. Like the amount of love I feel for my children just eclipses anything I think that I really thought that I'd be capable of in just terms of like all that love to these two tiny beings and really willing to do like, I mean, if someone wanted to hurt them or whatever, like the amount that I would feel in terms of like being a mama bear versus like before I was like, kind of like a pacifist, right? Like we can everything will be fine, we can get along, we can find ways to resolve. Like, I think it's just different when you have kids.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like it's definitely increased my empathy and to some degree made me a better person, especially if I have mom patients. They're coming in and they're running late. I'm like, you know what? The baby probably had a blowout. Just get
Yeah.
him in. I'll see them. Because we know those sorts of situations
Yeah.
arise. Everyone, it sounds cliche when they say you could never love someone so much. You could never put your
Yes.
life on the line for somebody, but it's true. And you don't believe it until you're in that position. And I kind of feel like I knew how to be a good mom before I became a mom. Now I realize all that stuff I thought in my head is not true. And for example, I was anti-screen time. Sometimes you just need the screen.
Oh,
And not a
100%.
bad
No, no, absolutely not. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I just need a coffee to be a better person right now. So how about you guys just go on screen so I can become a better person after my caffeine? Let's do that.
Exactly, exactly. Like the pre-baby Mona would be like, "Oh no, no, that is
Yes.
frowned upon." But
Yeah.
you reach a point where, like, you know what? Desperate times call for desperate
Yeah.
measures.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's not going to hurt in the long run. We're all doing our best here.
Now, I know there's some people out there who are like, "Well, why are you guys even having this conversation? You can have it all. You just have to do it a certain way." What do you say to people like that?
I think it really depends on how people define having it all, and what they're willing to sacrifice to get there. And I think ultimately for me, I think each person probably has a balance of their sort of personal goals and their public goals, and being able to sort of see both sets of goals at the same time when navigating decisions and things like that is important. But certainly, for me, everyone's like, are you thriving, et cetera. Like right now, day to day for me, it's survival. I want to take each day at a time. I want to survive it, do the best I can that day. And really that's kind of where I am right now. And perhaps down the line, I will be able to thrive.
Well, and I think every stage of life, like when the kids are much littler, there's certain needs. When they're older and they become more independent, again, the problems become bigger, but it may be just a different stress on the system. But the reality is, we don't need to prove we can carry everything. We just need to decide kind of what's worth carrying in that moment. And sometimes you can't carry everything all at once at the same time, and that's okay. You get some help, you figure it out. And again, that statement just always makes you feel like you're incompetent, that you can have it all and you keep trying to have it all. But I'm like, is that even something that I want to aspire to achieve?
Yeah, I know. And I think, someone said to me also before, like, you don't have to take an opportunity because it's presented to you just because it's the next rung on a ladder, right? Like, you need to make sure that, you kind of have your sort of like North Star, your missions. Like, what is it that I want for my career? Like, what is it that I want for my home life? And the decisions kind of that you're making are consistent towards that, not just take something because it's something that other people may have wanted, for example.
I love that. That's such an amazing quote. I'm going to use that.